All right, what's up, you dirtbags? We are back in studio. I could not be more excited to be sitting here with you guys on this beautiful, sunny Arizona day. We got a big one for you. Episode number 120 of the Dirtbags podcast, the number one podcast in the world for dirtbags. We are just going to claim that. We're going to put our stake there. We're taking it. We're so excited to be here with you guys. If you guys are listening to the show, I know I've asked this before. Huge shout out to you guys, actually. We just hit 100 Spotify reviews. We've been working on that for over 4 years. So thank you guys for taking 2 seconds while listening to the podcast just to leave us a little review. Whether you listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, just subscribing, ringing the bell, leaving a little review on there helps a ton. So huge shout out to you guys for just continuing to push the show along. Every time you share it to your Instagram story as well, helps a ton. We're going to keep doing more giveaways. I know a bunch of you guys reached out last episode. We have some more of those Dirtbags podcast limited edition hats. Gave away 5 of those to you guys that reached out to us. So just thank you for engaging with me, engaging with the show, asking questions, leaving us reviews. Like, all that stuff helps so much. Obviously, huge shout out to our sponsors who you guys hear from every episode: Elgin, Sledgehammer, and Charlie Huff. Couldn't do it without them. And this episode we have for you guys, 120 episodes in, we finally got the phenom herself on the show. The dirtbagette, Miss Kait Burds, obviously the Global Operator Challenge champion, in the studio. What a great episode. Kait is just full of personality, so fun. You'll see we're both wearing our hockey jerseys on the episode. Just an absolute great time and such a pleasure having on the show. So super excited for you guys to dive in here for this episode. One piece of homework before we get started with Kait's episode. So in 2 weeks, we'll drop episode number 121 for you guys. We have the man, Sean Van Dyke, coming on the show. If you're on YouTube or on Spotify, you'll see him holding up his book, Profit First for Contractors. The only piece of homework I have for you guys is just to order this book now ahead of time on Amazon. That way it'll get delivered to your house. By the time the episode drops in 2 weeks, you'll be able to, read a few chapters, get into it a little bit. And I'm super excited for you guys on episode 121. We kind of did it a little different. It's a 60-minute podcast episode with Sean. He dives into Profit First, and I do my best to relay it back to the book, back to the system, and then back to Sean. So super excited to hear what you guys think. I really did my best there to provide some more in-depth material, and as we're working with Sean. So homework item: buy this book, Profit First for Contractors by Sean Van Dyke, on Amazon. It's probably like $20. If you can't afford it, shoot me a message, let me know. We'll take care of you. I just am super excited for you guys to dive into that one. So that's your little piece of homework. Back to this episode number 120. Another piece of homework for you guys: go give Kait a follow before this episode kicks off. You'll hear me mention it on the episode here, but at Iron Lady Co. is her handle. She owns the company Iron Lady and Company. So unbelievable entrepreneur, unbelievable operator, obviously global operator champion there. So reigning out of Dubuque, Iowa. I am so excited to dive into this beautiful episode, number 120, with you guys. We have the dirtbagette herself, Miss Kait Burds. Let's dive into it. Let's have a great day, and let's get after it. Brandon, if you can cue the music, let's dive in to episode number 120 with the legend, Kait Burds. All right, what's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Egerbrotten, and I could not be more excited to be here with you all today for this unbelievable episode number 120 of the Dirtbags podcast. We have a very special guest in, and as you can see, I am wearing my Minnesota Wild hockey jersey. And so the reason I'm wearing this is because we have a Midwest native, somebody I'm very excited to have on the podcast here. I'm so excited to welcome in Iron Lady herself, Miss Kait Burds. How are we doing, Kait?
I'm really good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for anyone watching, if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube or a clip, you can see Kait's jersey right now. Kait, we got to address the jersey. I mean, Iron Lady and Co., the cap, the C on the chest. Like, what are we looking at? Do you have a number on the back?
Yeah, it's 23.
Oh my gosh.
That was like the year I kind of decided to do the Iron Lady thing and start actually producing some clothing and or just this in the jersey form, but started dabbling in cricket and heat presses and trying to make my own stuff, but yeah.
Okay, so you made that jersey yourself.
I did not. I ordered this one so I could kinda wear it at an event, and, I wanted to, like, have something, like, professional, it could be fun, and
Yeah.
I just really like jerseys as I've always been, like, a name on the front, like, the feeling of the numbers on the back. I've always liked the jersey aspect, and, like, back in my ski and snowboard days, I was a little, park rat, just always rocking the skate shoes, skinny jeans, and just a 2XL tall, big
Yeah.
jersey, you know?
That is so awesome. Yeah, I feel like there's not enough people that wear jerseys around. And I've
Yeah.
been, which we I don't have it anymore, as I was just telling you, but I we had our Dirtbags University hockey jersey. It was number 22. I had the C on the chest, and that thing was awesome. I'd wear it to conferences. Like, people loved it. We ended up auctioning it off at MSTA. Basically, everyone started pulling at it. They're like, "Luke, auction it off." I'm like, "All right, guys, get off me!" And we ended up selling it at auction, which is really cool. And you had mentioned that obviously that jersey you're wearing is one of one, and it's
Um,
just kind of cool to have something a little different, a little more fun, but it's also your business. So I want to start there. And also, for everyone listening, go give Kait a follow at Iron Lady Co. on Instagram and all other social platforms. But Kait, would love to hear more about the business, how you got here, and then there's so much more we get to dive into here.
Oh, yeah. The business kinda came from just, I was thinking about myself, and it was maybe, like, the beginnings of trying to figure out, like, do I wanna become a role model of the industry, or do I wanna, like, present myself as somebody who's, like, forward facing to represent women? And it was kind of nostalgia as I reflected on, like, had I had women coming up, and I've worked with women, but I honestly can't say that I had anybody that was, like, above me to be that role model in
Hmm.
any of the trades that I've been in. And then I kinda just was like, "Well, Iron Lady, like, what would be a good name?" And just kinda kicking that stuff around, and I'm like, "Well, I'm the Iron Lady," and kind of Iron Katie, and just kind of spinning it around. My old username used to be the Real Slim Katie, so I've always done, like, a play on words and
Yeah.
stuff. And then I got to thinking about everybody who helped me along the way, and, so it's Iron Lady and Company,
Mm.
and basically the company isn't this corporation, it's the company that I've kept along the way, and I've actually only been successful because of the people that I've kept around me, and that was just, like, the message of what I really wanted was I'm Iron Lady and Co. because I'm Iron Lady and Company that I keep. And my kind of little motto is like the success that you keep depends on, or the success that you seek is bred by the company you keep, kind of thing.
Wow.
So, it's just a little, you get in your cab. Back in then, I was spent a lot more time in the machine and had a lot of time to reflect. And you get like 10 hours of some sad music and stuff. You just
Yeah.
start thinking about everything under the sun. So, I was just kind of thinking, being nostalgic and kind of thinking about the future and where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And it all,
Yeah, and you mentioned this too, and I want to park on this for a second. But you were talking to me earlier too, and you mentioned to be a relatable face for the version of yourself years ago that didn't have one. And
yeah.
uh, did you just kind of realize that, like, you wanted to be that for others because you didn't have that person? Or talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I've always been a bit of a loner, and I don't think I've been a loner, but I've been a loner in groups of people.
Mm,
Um, been pretty independent, and I didn't realize that I was kind of, unique in my upcoming because I've always considered myself one of the boys,
mhm.
and that maybe was a bit of a survival tactic or just, like, something that, I just acknowledged early on, like, don't be a liability, as in, like, don't be a little girl, like, don't be different. And coming up, I strive for that. But as I've gotten older, and I guess you could call it more mature, um, I realized that my identity as a female isn't isn't a liability, and that I have to act a certain way too in order to get um respect. And
Hmm.
respect doesn't always come from being one of the boys. And I would say like I just kind of learned some hard lessons because of the way that I acted or felt like I had to act to get respect, but it never actually got me respect in the long run. The
Yeah.
only way to do that was to be my genuine self, um, and just be firm and understand exactly who I was in that place, so people can't push you around in a sense. And um, I just wish that I had that guidance. So yeah, I kind of wanted to. I guess I'm like, well, I guess if somebody has to bear the burden, I've already, I can do it. It's
Yeah.
not just one person though. It takes everyone and everyone's individual story and whatnot. And, I'm not any better than anybody else really, but I
Hmm.
am willing to talk about it, I suppose. And if somebody or one person can learn and heed something
Yeah.
without actually having to experience it themselves, then cool.
Yeah. And how would somebody find that value, find your story? Is it typically through social media? Is it through podcasts? Is it like, how do you provide that? How do you connect with others, maybe, is a better way to ask?
Yeah, definitely through socials. I used socials for documentation of my personal life. And in the last few years I've realized that I guess I have uh, a slight following. Not a very big one, but that's it's cool. It's a following nonetheless. And through the Women in Construction challenge that Caterpillar put on, I won that, and I had gotten a lot of uh people reaching out after the fact, and I was kind of like, holy cow! Like I have it's a responsibility. And the fact that somebody saw me do that and felt like they wanted to reach out and ask me questions, it felt like a huge honor and a privilege to be in that position to answer for somebody who was interested to, maybe get in the trades or operate equipment or just, had the courage to just say, hey, I really think you're awesome. So yeah, now that I've realized that social media is a tool in that regard instead of just kind of sharing photos and stuff to my family when I'm out on the road. I've started changing and gearing it in that direction. So yeah, social media. Trying to kind of start the TikTok thing,
Hmm.
LinkedIn, and then hopefully getting out to more of these events. ConExpo was exceptional in that regard, and I just try to be, number one. We're on job sites, so I try to put that forward face that I have on my social media, and I'm not trying to be a fake on the job site.
Yeah.
To act like you're going to be one way in your socials and then go and be different on the job site is hypocritical. So if I'm working with women on the job site, most importantly, women, I try to bridge the gap and just basically be like, "Hey, I'm Kate. I'm here if you need me." And if they're in the hierarchy standpoint above me, just basically like just try to help with the flow of things and just be a good teammate and ally in the field.
All right, you dirtbags. I want to take one quick second, maybe a couple more, to thank our three wonderful sponsors all at once. So we just do one ad read. And thank you guys for listening to the show. But huge shout out to our three sponsors. You've heard me talk about them many times before. Charlie Huff, the insurance legend when it comes to construction companies. Shoot him a text if you're looking to just compare prices, if you want a free quote, or if you want to just switch over to him because he knows the industry. His cell number, 435-764-4833. That's our guy, Charlie Huff. So many of you guys listening use him. We even use him for our company at Phaser, and he's just a man for the people. So shoot him a text. Of course, let him know you heard him on the Dirtbags podcast. It's always nice to get credit and for him to, he always shoots me a text with a screenshot and just says, thanks for sending you guys over. 435-764-4833. Charlie is the man. Massive shout out, of course, to Elgin Corporation. Elgin has been supporting the Dirtbags podcast for a while now. You can check them out on Instagram at Elgin Corporation, or learn more about what they do on their website, elgin.com. Elgin's been supporting us, but also they support our veterans of this wonderful country, and they help place U.S. veterans into the workplace. And we had that episode, I believe it was episode 94, the 4th of July special with Drew Nicolai, to talk more about Elgin and what they do for the industry, the wastewater, the septic industry, but also what they do for our country. And it is just, we're so honored to get to work with them and so thankful. So reach out to Elgin at Elgin Corporation on Instagram or elgin.com to see if their products are right for you. And finally, huge shout out to our team over at Sludgehammer. This is everyone, Will, Dr. Wickham, the whole team over there has just been absolutely incredible. Excited to spend some time with them in person at MSTA in Michigan. That's right where they're headquartered. And we'll get to spend some time with Elgin there as well. So Sludgehammer, you can go check out their new fancy website, sludgehammer.net. They have all their information on there of how you can become a network partner with them and use their products to have a whole new revenue stream, but also to take care of your clients even better when it comes to advanced septic solutions. So go check them out, sludgehammer.net, or of course, give them a follow on their Instagram at Sludgehammer Group Ltd. Let them know you heard them on the Dirtbags podcast. That is all that we have for our ad reads today. Wanted to try something new, shorten it up a little bit, put them all together, and just thank them and thank you guys for listening to the show as well. So let's get right back to the episode. Appreciate you guys a ton. Like, follow, subscribe, do all that stuff, but let's get right back into it. Yeah, when you mentioned the Caterpillar competition, for our listeners who maybe don't know what that is or where that was held, do you mind diving into that a little bit? And congratulations. I mean, champion. And so let's talk about that. And what was the competition exactly?
So Caterpillar does the Global Operator Challenge. And I understand that they have not had a female make it to the regionals, let alone the GOC and Vegas at ConExpo. Um, from what I understand was they were like, man, we just really want to see a female there. But women don't generally consider themselves super qualified when it comes to these competitions. And I can relate. I would never sign up for a competition had it not been for this event. I would have been like, oh, I'm going to get smoked or it's going to be embarrassing or something like that. There's this like imposter syndrome that we kind of put on ourselves. And then there's also the realities of if you're not with a company that's going to enable you, then you could likely get pigeonholed. So your skill sets could be like super narrowed. So this was a great event for them to put on. And they put it on at the North Carolina Edwards Rap Center and Cary. And they just basically like brought, I think there was almost 20 of us out, and there was a handful of women there was like 3 women from South America, and put on like a GOC style event. And that was the general gist of it. But it was kind of funny how I ended up there. I didn't like have a dealer. I was working in a wind farm in Illinois at the time. And then I had just gotten laid off. It's just been like a job that just one of those jobs that just beats you up. And I was on my way home and I had actually got a call. And a good friend of mine from Fratellone Companies in Minnesota, actually, Tony Fratellone, not sure if you're familiar. Yeah. I know him through snowcross, and I was a bit of a snowcross junkie when they came into Dubuque and go and hang out, and they were just really good people. So I guess Ziegler reached out to him and said, hey, like, do you have any women that you think would be a great fit for this? And he said, she doesn't work for me, but I know somebody that would be awesome. So he like hooked me up, and that was so cool. The fact that he thought of me as never seen me operate, and then threw me out there, threw me a bone for opportunity. And initially I was a little standoffish about it because sometimes I think the women in construction events get really like maybe diluted is the word, or just kind of like um they get heavy on one side. And do you want to be affiliated with something that could be like overly biased or something like that? And then I kind of got to thinking about it, and I was like, I feel like I'm pretty level-headed, and at the very least, I'm going to go and represent myself, and I can make some great connections, and I'm going to go have an experience in North Carolina. Literally had zero inclination of, oh yeah, I'm going to win it. I had zero. I mean, I'm a cocky, competitive person when it comes to stuff like that, and I will talk mad shit.
Yeah.
But it was just funny. It was like it was opposite. The way I went into it was like completely opposite of how I normally like chirp and I went into it with like just open mind, open um arms, and I really was excited to meet everybody, and I felt like I did that. My dad and my sister were able to come along as well. And I kind of had to have a little conversation with them about like, hey, this is essentially like a work event for me. So like
Yeah.
you guys are gonna see a side of me that you don't understand. And it's funny, it was like my family doesn't really understand the work version of me.
Sure.
My brother does because he does a similar side, but he does and he doesn't. He's like more office rather than field. But I was just like, I'm gonna be different and I need you guys to embrace that and I need you to not hold me back because I'm gonna go in this with like just this attitude of I'm here and I'm capable and I'm excited to network and I'm gonna represent myself the way that I want to be seen on the job site. And yeah, so it turned into a really great event. And we did like 3 events that they normally have, and ours just happened to be the like an excavator challenge,
Mhm.
skid steer challenge, and then a loader challenge. And I struggled, things that I thought were gonna come like pretty easy to me, didn't. And you get too confident in one and then, I don't run an excavator often, and then I did, and I probably did the best in the excavator challenge, but
Wow.
the worst in the skid steer challenge, and then I forgot the pallet in the loader challenge,
Yeah.
and it was like so it's just really funny to get out there in that competitive setting and show off your skills and test your skills and more of a mental game and stuff. But the really fun, unique thing, that Kat also had told us was, um, that a lot of the times at the Global Operator Challenge, the guys get so competitive, they won't, like, share tips.
Mm,
But immediately, like, once we started doing things, like, it was like, "Hey, don't do that," or just be wary of that, and we were super cool about, like, just kind of telling each other's, like, the secrets or the experience that we had in the event, because we really did want people to do a good job.
right.
It's not gonna be fun for anybody to, like, go and just completely, like, have a bad experience. So they were awesome. I was not a biased event. It was really fun and empowering, and, you're rubbing elbows with great people and a great company, and I love Cat equipment. I ran Cat as long as I've been, in heavy dirt, they made us feel like rock stars, which is often something that you don't get to experience in the dirt community. You don't get
Mhm.
that spotlight. So it was really, really cool. I 100% hands down, uh, a big pivot point for me, an awakening, if you would, for like the person that I kind of wanted to be moving forward, and like the impact that you can have through your um just experience and reactions and how you interact with people. And yeah, it was so cool. If I could go back to that day a few years ago, I would.
Yeah.
Best day ever.
It's so cool to hear that story too, and you've definitely been on different sides of the industry. You've seen so much of it. You've been in it for a long time, and I guess one question that I would have is, from your opinion, like, what do you think is the most misunderstood piece of the construction industry? Let's say, like, working in construction, from somebody that doesn't. What do you think is the most widely misunderstood conception of the industry?
Oh, I think I'm gonna say something that nobody expects. It's not the work. Uh, you know, it's the people. And I would say not generally just the people. I think it's a lot of the men. I think a lot of the people in the industry as men are misunderstood.
Hmm.
I think the priorities of why we do what we do, um, are misunderstood. And, I think there's this obligation. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. On the receiving end of it at home, it could be like, oh, my spouse does never wants to be at home, is always working, never wants to do this. But I get this unique perspective as a female in the industry, and I get to see people on their best days, their worst days, going through personal things or work things, and we become close to the people that we work with, whether we like it or not, because we spend most of our time with them. And it is the motivators.
Mhm.
And money is a motivator, but money is the motivator to provide. And a lot of these people just have this like unrelenting um capacity to try to provide for their families. And whether it's not to get off or get up a step in the um higher than they feel like they were, or whatever. It's just insane the drive that I see that people have. It's not, we all know it's not an easy job. It's not a generally rewarding job most of the time. And a lot of people that are in the industry are jaded, or, have a bit of an edge to them. So I would just say is that that's the misunderstood part, is the people who are actually in the industry. And unfortunately, I think it gets exploited a bit um, by leaders and companies in general. This just kind of taking advantage of people's obligation to provide for their families. And
Mm.
sometimes you just have to force people to stop. Go take that vacation. Go take the time to reset. They emphasized it a lot at ConExpo that the industry in America is 500,000 people short at least, and we're seeing it directly on our job sites, with hiring people. And the union halls are empty in the thick of the season, and all these big data centers and they're just draining the halls. And um, they don't stop though. There's not a lot of time off, and when are people getting the opportunity to recharge their batteries? And
Mm.
that's where just setting boundaries for ourselves is really, really important.
Yeah, it's obviously one of the biggest issues, but everyone's working to solve it. Especially when you go to something like ConExpo, it's like it's the people, right? It's the industry. It's how we need 500,000 people just to finish the work we have on the books right now, let alone the people retiring. And so, what do you see the construction industry looking like 10 years from now? It's I guess for me, it will continue to go on, of course, it has to, but what happens? Like, what breaks, if anything, or what you're also seeing a shift too in the white collar industry where so many people are losing their jobs. And I don't know if I'm just optimistic, but when I look at all these people looking for jobs, and then I look at the industry we're in, and it's like we're looking for people to come work. Like, don't you think that there will be some that'll come over to the trades and see the career path they have? Or maybe what's your opinion on how this plays out in the next 10 years or so?
Oh, that's a loaded question. There's probably a lot of unpopular opinions in there for
For
me.
sure. Yeah.
I think I haven't really worked in the blue collar world, so I can't, or not the blue collar, the white collar world, so I can't talk about that too much. But I suppose it'd be like maybe different disciplines in sports. And if you were a runner and then all of a sudden you're gonna go be uh, a hockey player or something, what you're used to,
Mhm.
the hard that you're used to is you're kind of in that niche. And it takes a lot of energy and time and dedication to switch into another niche and be good at it. So I think there's like a level of fear for one, and nobody
Yeah.
likes change. I think like, our parents and stuff, I think change represented failure.
Mhm.
And that's why a lot of them stayed in their jobs for as long as they did. Stayed in relationships as long as they did, stuff like that. And then this our generation, and maybe even the generation below it, is like kind of more opportunistic, where
Mm.
change is more open and fleeting and exciting. And I think that's a big wild card to what we all know. I think there's not enough like data out there to really see how this pans out. It could be good, but, like, you get, like, an influx of 100,000 people, and they're like, nah, construction sucks." And then
Mhm.
you're back where you started, because they come in, they try it, and they leave. And it could be super detrimental because you come in and you've wasted your resources to train and
Mhm.
outfit these many people, and then they don't end up staying. So what kind of effects does that have? I have no idea. I do think that, more emphasis on the trades at schools, and I think that we're seeing it, and, we know people like Mike Rowe have been saying it for a long time. A lot of people have been saying it for a long time. Emphasis on the trades, and I think we're seeing it now, but this needed to happen 15 years ago.
Right.
And my mom has a PhD, she's a vice president at our community college out here, and, you know, if she had it her way, I would have been, getting going through higher education and stuff like that, and, but ultimately, my parents have seen where the trades have taken me, and there isn't a gripe, because
Mhm.
it has been successful and, you're doing work and you're making money. So, I don't know, that's just how do you change the mindset of so many people when they've been doing this, and yeah, there's a job over here, but I know that when I get laid off, like, I don't really wanna go work at a gas station because
Mhm.
that's not the line of work that I wanted to do. So, maybe it's gotta get harder before it gets better because, they say that what hard times make hard or what is that saying? You know what I mean? That saying of like, essentially the gist of it is
Yeah.
that like challenging times and adverse times create resilient people. And
There we
maybe
go.
times have just been a bit easy and people still feel like the opportunity to pick and choose is there and maybe it's just got to get to the point where you don't get to pick.
Yeah, and I think that's where my mind goes too is it'll almost force people into certain decisions, but sometimes
Mhm.
it's not the worst thing, depending on where the help is needed.
Right.
And unfortunately, like we have the perspective, like everyone for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years have been like, we need more people, we need help, and nobody's really been seemingly listening. And
Mhm.
so it one thing that maybe helps me, and I think a lot of leaders in construction try and keep this mentality is you can't save the industry by yourself. So really just trying to do your small part. And Kate, you do such a great job of that too with your brand, with your company, with what you're doing, just trying to inspire others. We try and do that, of course, through the podcast, through hiring people, through bringing exposure to the industry. It's crazy. Whenever we tell somebody like back home in Minnesota or just anywhere, they're like, Luke, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I own a digital marketing company and we only work with excavation companies. And they're like, what even is that? Like that. And
Right.
is there really that many excavation companies out there? I'm like, so just like
I don't know.
starting with the education of the industry and um but zooming out a little bit more and saying, well, where do you start? And for us and for you, it's in the schools. And so we have our trade school scholarship for my high school for the last 5 years, where it's like, hey, this is reserved for somebody going to a trade school, not a 4 year school. And I went to a 4 year school. I'm not saying those are bad, but I'm just saying this scholarship is for somebody going into the trades. And sometimes it'll get at least the conversation started of like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why is Kate or why is Luke so interested in the trades and willing to help the trades and people going into that route? And then you start to come into this world and see like, oh, wow, this is our infrastructure. This is our water. This is our sewage. This is everything. Our world revolves around this, but they've done such a great job that we don't even realize it. And
Mm.
until, and I think that's maybe that's part of the not part of the problem, but it's been so great and everyone does such a great job and we have great utilities and great infrastructure that nobody does notice until it's going to be catastrophic. And then it's like, well, then what? And then we're way too far behind.
Right, like, when you're inconvenienced by the job site that's been going for so long because there's nobody to staff it and stuff. I remember talking about this with, like, Big E and Zach and, Beef, and we just kind of, like, when do you say given the fact that the workforce is what it is, it whose responsibility is it to basically draw a hard line and be like, "Enough's enough, we can't staff this." Like, let's pump the brakes because eventually quality is gonna start being
Mhm.
sacrificed if
Yep.
it isn't already, and that's been one of my biggest struggles the last few years is I think a lot of companies are starting to see the money bag that's coming with these jobs, and at the expense of the people who are doing the jobs, they don't care, and I just want more competency. Just hit me with some of that because it seems like it's dropped off. And
Yeah.
I know I am not the best. I'm not even close to it. I am learning, and everybody out there is learning, but it seems to be like there's just like cutoff of
Mm,
like competency, and some of these people who are the leaders of these job sites, responsible for safety and quality, and it just it's a if you have bad leaders and they treat treat their people poorly, how are we going to expect any retention at all?
mm,
And a lot of that stuff goes hand in hand. And I remember like a survey that came out um, with a company back in the day, and they were like talking about DEI and how do we get more people to come in, and I think they were looking at like the here and now. And again, this is like you might be able to get some people to come in here and now, but it's a 10-year problem. Like
yeah.
I personally think that we can tackle a lot of stuff in one go. And from a women's standpoint, it's like how do I get childcare? How do I get this and that? And then they're talking about like letting people leave early to go pick up their kids. Well, let's be honest, like some of these companies, when they build job sites, they build mini cities.
Hmm.
So what is another office trailer with a childcare center? And then you're putting somebody else to work. And technically that person now works in construction and they're another number in construction.
Hmm.
And then you got your kids involved, they're surrounded by construction, so they're coming up through something, exposure's half the battle, right? And then you got your people, and they say, "What is your reason to work safe?" Well, your kids are right there, of course you wanna go see them at lunch. A little incentive or something like that. And then the kids see mom and dad coming in, and they're on the job site, and they have this level of pride. Is it gonna work in every application? No, but it's something that could potentially work, when out on the road when the just certain amenities are not easy to locate because we're in the middle of a cornfield somewhere. I could see this working, some sort of childcare or something like that. A lot of people travel with their families, and
Mhm.
there might be just a husband and wife, and there's a wife sitting at home that might not realize that construction is an avenue for her.
Mhm.
Or kids that are about to graduate in high school and college and stuff like that, where they're gonna could potentially be in the workforce. I think construction as an industry, and like a lot of the companies and associations related to it, like the union and some of the other things, lack creativity. How many of
Mm.
these things have been written in stone for so long? People, the union's trying to get kids to come out of high school and sign up, but a lot of kids don't understand what kind of obligation that is, and that might scare them too, so they just don't sign up at all. I mean, I was in my 20s when I joined the union, and I didn't realize how much of a commitment it was until, I realized I was in the union. I mean, I didn't realize it. The company just bought my book, and I was like, "Oh, I'm working in the union for this job," and then I started realizing, I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm in the union. You don't just get to, like,
Yeah.
leave." Like, you know? So, that was a new experience for me. And just understanding what your options are. And can the union, evolve to like be more appealing to young people so it doesn't feel like you're signing your life away in a
Mm.
sense. I mean, it has a lot of perks, but a lot of high school kids don't understand that.
Right. Are you still in the union, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'm still in the union. So I work for Mortensen, and back in the day, they sent me to Wyoming, and that was they purchased my book, and I was journeyed in as an operator. And usually, when you get the union, you go through an apprenticeship,
Mhm.
you do your years, and then you learn about the union and all of that. So that was like my own naivete. I didn't understand things. I
Yeah.
could operate, and I knew how to operate. And so I just paid my dues, and I was there, and now I worked in the union for 2 years, and it wasn't an overly great experience for me, and then I withdrew, and I was still a member in good standing, so I withdrew, and I went out, and I worked non-union, and I was gonna stay because I started non-union, and I was gonna stay non-union, and I was like, "This is it, I'm gonna stay non-union." And then Mortenson called me, and they said, "Hey, we want you to go out to Oregon, but it's a union job," and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go out and I'll be a foreman, that's fine, but I'll get back in, but I'm staying in the union, like, just don't keep jerking me around, like, I don't
Mm.
want that." I stick out like a sore thumb. I'm not like I'm not you know, I don't look like your 50-year-old dad, you know, like I'm a girl, I run a blade and I'm loud. Like people know who I am when, like they're like you there's probably like 3 or 4 women blade operators that I know of. And so like if somebody has a beef with me, they're gonna know they can probably figure it out pretty quick. And so I just said I'm gonna stay in the union, and I went out there and I took it upon myself. Now I'm a foreman instead of an operator, and I have an obligation to the people that I work for or that work for me and are underneath me, and we work together to represent the union and represent the people. So I started reading, educating myself and reading the labor agreements, and now I've learned a lot more. And I guess if I were to go back, I might have asked more questions,
Mhm.
knowing that I was going to be involved in something that was, it's obviously an institution that's put in place for good reasons. So I might not have joined it so blindly, or like just let somebody sign me up for something I didn't know. Like it
Mhm.
was just really like a lot of ignorance on my part. The union's been good from there's a lot of perks and financial things that come with it, and it's been beneficial that way. And um, it's taken me some really cool places, so no beef there. But as I evolve, like I'm looking to further myself.
Mhm.
And like I just got promoted, and we're gonna try me out as a superintendent or a
Let's
soup or
go.
whatever on this. Thank you.
Come on, let's
And
go.
and as I do that, like my time in the equipment, my time in the equipment as a foreman, in some states I can't operate a piece of equipment. So like my time has dwindled from my passion of operating, but I also have this passion to learn and push myself to see if I can do it.
Mhm.
So I'm essentially taking myself out of the seat by doing that in the union. And eventually, if I continue down the superintendent route, would probably have to, withdraw because I wouldn't be paying into the dues. I have to figure out my options on that. It's pretty new
Yeah.
myself. It's pretty new, but I mean, a lot of companies don't want to pay a superintendent's like wage. I think for the union dollar because it's
Mhm.
expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we'll see.
I think, one of the things that I keep hearing in your thought process is giving yourself options, but making sure you understand the options. And I think, when we get in trouble as individuals is when we think there's only one option for us, when there's only one way we can do it. But, um, almost always I try and convince people to find 3 options, and most people stop at 2 or they stop at 1, but see if you can find 3 options for yourself. And as you're mentioning and discussing this, Kate, like so much of it is just figuring out your options and figuring out pros and cons and listing it out. And it's not a no here, it's not a no here, but it's like I need to understand both sides and before making that decision. And so, yeah, I think it's just for anyone listening too, just making sure that you find a third option as well of like, is it this where I'm currently at? If I switch, am I going here? This is my second option, but is there a third option? Which almost always there is. And that can give you a clearer picture as you're making decisions like this, which is just so fascinating to hear. And I don't know if you even realized the line you dropped, but it could be the title of this episode. You go, I'm a girl, I run a blade, and I'm loud. Like that was so, so good. I love it. But Kate, you mentioned so obviously, Beef, Zach, Big E. We just launched Eric's episode today, which is on a
Ooh,
Friday. So I don't know if you've listened to it yet, but
not
those
yet.
guys, great friends of mine. And how did you get in with them? How did you first get to meet them? Was it through Crew Collaborative? How did you get to know those guys?
I'm gonna throw some shade just because I
For
can.
sure. Hey, that's what
So,
the show's for.
so I had Beefy on my or not Beefy, Big E on my live the other day, and he was the first guy that I've had on my live. But I first off, like, huge props to that man and all these guys, really, all you guys. Um, but I he said that I must have followed Zach first, and I think it was based off of that post that Zach shared initially about the guy getting killed in the trench box.
Yep.
I think I read that post and I was like, man, this is like a breath of fresh air, like somebody really calling it how it is. And I haven't spent a ton of time in trenches myself, but I have done like mainline water and sewer. So I have been in the hole both with the trench box and without.
Hmm.
And, that was early on in my career, and I did definitely didn't realize, like, the realities of it. You think you're, like, a badass and you're like, "Oh, like, it's cool."
Yeah,
Like, it's like getting out of your truck without your hard hat on,
for
like,
sure.
I mean, I'm down here, I'm laying pipe, so but yeah, I mean, I would say I've been in a trench with trench box significantly more than I have been without, and that was just, maybe as the way that is progressed and people started taking safety more seriously and stuff, and that was a long time ago when I was laboring, and so yeah, I liked his spin on it, and I liked that he kinda said the things that a lot of people probably say behind closed doors, but, um, don't really say out in public. And
Hmm.
so yeah, I think I followed him, and then he had some sort of charity thing for like, or not a charity. He was like auctioning off a date to a wedding. I don't know. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
And I'm a I'm an idiot, but I will say shit to people online as like a joke. Like if not a joke, I was actually serious, but I was like, "Hey, like I'm available." And I'm like, "Parents love me and I'm fun." And like I was down to go to a wedding, and I'll go to places and not know people. Like it doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
Like I'm fully capable to, like, handle a room of people that I don't know, and I will work that room, and we will be best friends by the end of the night. Like, that's just how it is. I'm down with that. So, I finally met him at ConExpo, and I kinda said, like, "Should have taken me to the wedding," you
Yeah, for
know?
real. I think I even threw my name in that hat of being his plus one.
That would've been so good, but I did not know, so I did not realize this trifecta of people that knew each other,
Mm,
and this is kind of like me starting to branch out and, like, I don't know, I'm a weirdo sometimes that I don't wanna see what other people are doing because either I feel like I'm inadequate and I'm not measuring up to other people's things. So I never really followed other people in the dirt world.
hmm,
I followed people in the snow world because in a sense, I feel like I am an equal and can hang in that regard. But when I stopped doing snow things, I kind of even like stopped following people because I felt like had this imposter syndrome that I wasn't good enough and I couldn't hang with them. So in the dirt world, same thing. I kind of didn't really go out and follow people, but then like I started kind of being like, whatever, I'm gonna learn things from people and I'm gonna see things that maybe I didn't know or network. And so I started not aggressively adding, but if I liked what people had out there, I would just add them and follow them, and, if we talked, we talked, if we didn't, we didn't, no big deal. Um, and then Eric came along and hit me up, and we started just chit-chatting over dumb stuff,
mhm,
and, I think it was about just operating, and then we got on the topic of golf, and he said,
mhm,
"Hey, like, I think you'd be a great fit for this ambassadorship that the Blue Collar Golf Co. And they're looking for women. And if you golf and you seem to have like the right like kind of presentation and vibe about you, and I'm gonna get you linked up with these guys." So cue Blue Collar Golf Dad and Blue Collar Golf Co. And now it's do you know Bricks and Birdies? He's
mhm.
a yeah, so Bricks, never met him, but, we talk online and Beef, and then or not Beef, Biggie. I always get those 2 confused, sorry, guys. Um, but,
Sorry about it.
they're basically twins.
Yeah.
But, um, I'm like Eric's not far away in Minnesota, and
Mhm.
my sister lives in Des Moines, so we just met in Des Moines and got, 18 holes of golf in and met, and just super cool. I feel like I've known Eric for, like, a long, long time,
Yeah.
and he's just so, like the way he can just kind of put you at ease, without doubt that, like, you're in good company, and, just through my time in this industry, I've developed a lot of trust issues, and he's a breath of fresh
Nice.
air in the fact that you don't feel like you have to be on guard with him, and I really, really appreciate that. He's made me feel, like, super safe in that environment, and, it's just nice to be able to, like, actually cut loose and
Yeah.
vibe with somebody who doesn't really have motives or is looking to gain something from you. He's just really looking to uplift, and you don't see that a lot with a ton of people. And then Beefy's followed me. Well, I followed him after the women's thing because they talked about him and like Beefy blade hand, blade
Mhm.
operator. I'm like, well, I gotta go follow this guy. And I'm watching him, and honestly, I'm jealous that he gets to go run a blade all day. Like he's
Yeah.
just doing stretches of highway. Like that's the dream, man. Just give me a wide open road and just let me butter it up. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. So it kind of I can't remember if I reached out to him or just kind of watched his stuff for a while, and then we chatted a little bit, and then um and now it's just like probably every day. I
Mhm.
think, I have him on Snapchat, and then I didn't even really know him that well, but he was like one of my only people that I could talk to
Right.
about work stuff. And I would just like snap call him and I'd start screaming about some shit. I just needed to like vent. And then he'd be like, "You good fucker?"
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's been going on for about 2 years now. Sorry, Beefy, for probably blowing out your eardrums on the phone or whatever. But yeah, he's just like he's actually just really like let me just kind of like get things out and kind
Mhm.
of like guided me in more of a like a big brother kind of way. And it's just I don't know, I just don't generally reach out to people as much. So to meet everybody, I had met Beefy once on my way out to Oregon. I stopped and had dinner with him, and just good to put a name to a face and make sure he wasn't like the kind of guy that would drag you out into the boonies
Mm.
and
And kill
like
ya. Yeah, that's not ideal
exactly. You always got to think about that.
for sure.
But I'd probably just sweep the legs and then run away. But I'd be I think I could probably get him, take his legs. But I just but no, it's good. It was just so good. And then to get out to ConExpo and
Yeah.
finally met Zach, and I like, I was really glad that I messaged you because I hadn't had the chance to connect with you. I think we were probably 2 ships passing in the night a
Yeah,
lot.
100%.
We probably were within 20 feet of each other, and I did not realize. But I was just so grateful, and I don't even think I can articulate how grateful I am to have like been caught in that web, and
Mhm.
then just by extension, Zach's friends.
Mhm.
I ended up at Jimmy's Starbucks meet and greet, and um, I was blitzed, but like I did talk to him. I don't remember what I said, but
It's probably
I
good.
talked to
It's
him.
probably great.
Yeah, and then like that whole crew, and then a bunch of other Aussies. I lived in Australia for like 6 years, so we bonded over that, I
Wow.
think. And then all of Eric's connections, and then Beefy and myself. And Beefy's quiet. It's funny. People come up to him and they're like, "Oh man, I watched you," and like it's just so funny. Like he's got this following, and like he's just a humble dude, and he likes
Yeah.
to run blade, and he get this man a shower head that can actually like you know he's out here suffering in the streets, and but he's got a following. So
Yeah, I
it's
I
just super cool.
I love it too, and it's cool because you and I hadn't officially met or really knew each other up until really a few weeks ago, and
Yeah.
but we know all the same people. It's like I saw you in a video. I can't remember whose video it was, but I saw Christian Leffley, who's a good friend of
Yeah.
mine with Windwood Property, and
Oh yeah.
yourself. And then obviously Beefy, Zach, Eric, and I've known those guys for years now, and it's just like everyone's very connected, and I think where I want to go with this is asking you because I feel very connected as well, and it's such a blessing, and it is such a breath of fresh air because they're your friends and they're people you trust, and um, thinking about it, I don't know exactly how I got so blessed to get to know these people, but if you were to have some advice for somebody listening that maybe doesn't feel like they have that community yet, how would you recommend they go build that or go reach out? And before you answer that, I have one piece that we always try and do. Like, there's a reason we have a podcast. There's a reason we put every guest's Instagram handle in the chat and we mention it because, like, Kate, you are a real person that's in the industry that is more than willing to chat with anyone listening. And that's why we kind of hammer that home. But any other pieces of advice, because you've gone probably, if you've seen both sides, you've been quiet, you've maybe, like you mentioned, kind of felt like that imposter syndrome, but now you found like you found your community. How would you recommend somebody going to find that, especially in construction?
Well, for one, there's going to be a lot of naysayers, and it's important to not listen. I think so many people, when you're about to branch out, it's that change thing. When you're about to, like, upset the apple cart, people are gonna be like, "Oh, no, do that," you know?
Mhm.
So, okay, you can consult people if you want, but consult the right people, because
Mm.
people who are not really looking out for the bigger picture of you are gonna tell you not to do something. And I would say that sometimes the people closest to us are those ones that are not overly supportive or don't understand the vision. Um, in I have a great family, but Midwest mentality, Catholic values, it's almost like it's like if you were to go to church and show up late, the whole aisle kind of gossips and stuff like that. Like, don't do things that could draw unwanted attention. Well,
Yeah.
like, so sometimes I've consulted close people to me and I haven't really gotten the answers that I wanted. So it's really like the people who know you and know your goals, um, are the right people to bounce some ideas off of and weigh
Mhm.
opinions. So not everybody's going to understand your direction. They might not be against you, but they definitely might not understand your direction. So I would just choose your team wisely. And that's where that Iron Lady and Co thing comes in. And then also do the things that scare you.
Hmm.
I know that I look like I'm like overly confident or confident in general all the time. And I walk into a room and, uh, like, you think I'd own the place. That's kind of it's a safety tactic for me, it's definitely a survival thing, but when people see me, they don't see insecurity. Even though, like,
Mhm.
insecurity is raging inside me, but it's a way for me to, like, control the tone, um, and it puts me into situations that had I gone with a bit of a caution or a fear, I probably wouldn't have gotten out of it. So, like, I guess in a sense, probably to a fault, I'm okay with making an ass out of myself.
Sure.
So, like, I'm comfortable being embarrassed, I think is something that not a lot of people are okay with.
Yeah. Or flip that, you care less about what people think of you.
Yeah, and that comes and goes too. Like, I'm probably in an insecure I'm coming out of an insecurity girly era right now.
Mhm.
It comes and goes. Like, sometimes things, jar my confidence more than others. So,
Mm.
like, it's okay to be it's okay to ebb and flow with yourself, but, like, it's good to check in and kinda see where you're at. Are you letting and it sneaks up on you, like, are you letting what people say and think determine your actions more than they used to?
What specific scenarios or instances would jar your confidence? If you can give any light to that, like what have because you feel like you mentioned you're strong, you're confident, you come into the room, you can own the room. But as most of us know, and especially people listening, even if we are that confident, as you mentioned, there are things that jar your confidence and throw you off the rails a little bit. Like what are some of those things that you found have kind of thrown you off a bit?
Right. It's, we'll go down a walk down memory lane.
Love
Like,
it.
in high school, I was, like, so beat to my own drum type thing. Like, coming out of high school, I didn't care what I looked like as long as I felt comfortable in it and I, like, liked it, tomboy attire. I have a twin sister, and she would always be like, "Why are you wearing that?"
Yeah.
Like, if I felt good in it, I was gonna wear it because if I felt good, then I knew I was confident. Then, get into college, and I think there was a lot of things that disrupted that, whereas, like, new environment, new people, you
Yeah.
don't have the support system, things that I like the confidence that came super easily for me, I realized came from a super strong support system, people who told me they loved me, like, I got hugs and, things that were important first, like physical touch and stuff,
Mhm.
that made me a stronger person. So this is really like an all-encompassing kind of idea here. So I struggled in high school or I struggled in college when I left, and I realized like, okay, my support system's further away. I'm having a hard time being this confident individual without being reminded by people who I know that care about me. So I learned that about myself, and then you move into the professional world. I kind of figured it out again.
Mhm.
Cue alcohol too.
Mhm.
I was drinking a lot, and that was kinda giving me this false sense of confidence and, like, false sense of happiness too. So I kind of reined that in and started working out and, started feeling better about myself. But um, it goes away so fast. It's hard to get back and then it goes away so fast. So the biggest thing that kind of rocks it was not having my support system
Mhm.
or the people that are in place to like pick you up when you're down. And they're always there. I always have them, but they're not as readily available. And I didn't understand that, like just the whole physical touch thing, it through hugs. I used to hug probably like 50 people a day. And
Yeah.
now, it's not overly acceptable on a job site.
Sure.
Um so I've had to learn that about myself. And I just got like a weighted blanket and two cats. I'm just over there in my camper just watching some Law and Order at the end of the night with just no, that's what I'm doing. And just trying to like create healthy habits on that front. But what really struck me this year was and this is probably going to segue into the mental health thing, but what really has been blows to my confidence is when people go after my work ethic
Mm.
and my just uh how do you say it? The quality of work for which I do. Because they're
Mhm.
like you said, I said before, I'm an insecure person. I think everybody is to a degree. I'm insecure about the things that uh like looks. I don't think, and like I think I look at other girls and I wish that I could look like them. But I don't. And it's so those are the things I'm insecure about. So it doesn't really have a place on the job site.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say that I dress down on the job site. I just dress the way that I dress.
Mhm.
So I'm okay wearing men's Wrangler pants that I got, those climbing pants from Walmart that don't do anything for my figure. It's fine. I'm not there to try to like look good. And I prefer bigger t-shirts and bigger sweatshirts and stuff like that. I'm okay with that. Like that
Mhm.
doesn't make me insecure. But the one thing that I've always been secure in is my ability to show up, to try hard, and to do a good job. And I think lately somebody figured it out how to get under my skin and they
Hmm.
did. And you lay on all the other things too. Like I don't want to go into a ton of detail with it, but there's a lot of things that like that come with being the girl on the job site. So the rumors or the just the overall like shit talk
Yeah.
that just isn't really called for. So that weighs on a person, and after a while it's just like you just feel like you can't catch a break. So for one, like not getting the validation or the I don't even want to say praise, but everybody operates off of praise to some
Yeah.
degree.
For sure.
So to know where you're at, I need feedback. I need
Mhm.
feedback from my bosses to know that I'm doing a good job. And if I'm not doing a good job, tell me.
Mhm.
At least if I know I'm not doing a good job, I have something to work towards too. But I can look at something and know that I've done a good job. But on the other hand, too, like if somebody is kind of playing these mental games with me, it's like I don't know which way is up.
Yeah.
And it like I really had to I'm definitely putting myself back together after I would definitely say the last year. It's been like the last 8 years of stuff, but last year really like swept my feet for sure.
Hmm.
Um yeah, it's been a challenge. So I actually ended up leaving the company I was with and going to work for another one. And then it was the same shit.
Yeah.
Just dumb stuff. It was like 8 years with Mortensen packed into packed into 3 months. So I was
Yeah.
just like, I gotta go.
Would you say that you take direction really well? So if it's like positive reinforcement or constructive criticism, like just paint me, like let me know how I'm doing, and so that you can continue doing that or you can adjust and change. Is that kind of what you'd say you're really good at, is taking that direction?
Yeah, me at work is almost opposite of me outside of work. So outside
Mm.
of work, I'm really artistic, and I like to artistic. Just
I
so,
I heard
just,
it.
just so we know, uh, the other one's questionable. Um, but I can interpret things, and I like to be free flowing and kind of avant garde, if you will.
Mhm.
I like to draw, I like to paint. I like to kind of figure things out. Because I know that I'm a sensitive being and I'm emotional sometimes, I have learned and had to do this in order to be the most consistent version of myself, that I owe that to the people that work for me, underneath me, and with me.
Mhm.
They deserve a consistent person that comes into work every day.
Sure.
So I don't always feel that way, but in order to do so, I've learned to kind of shut certain things off. And if you don't want me to think with emotion, then you have to give me the facts.
Mm.
So like if I'm gonna make a decision or I'm gonna do things, I've done I've learned to kind of try to suppress the emotion. Doesn't always work, but suppress that. But I need the facts to operate off of. So if I'm not doing a good job, give me those facts.
Mhm.
If I'm doing a good job, give me those facts. If you don't give me anything, then I start operating off emotion.
Got it.
And then I start like, it's easy to start spiraling, you know?
This is a really good conversation too, because even like when we flip it of as leaders, like how do we communicate with our team? And I love how you mentioned um, really a lot of it comes down to removing emotion, addressing the facts, and having complete transparency, right? It's like we are on the same team. Here is where we are at. Here are the facts, regardless of emotion. Like, and I think that comes back to business in general. Like business is just business. It shouldn't ever be personal.
Mm.
And especially when you're talking with your team or you're training up and developing your team, it should just be business. And so what a lot of times when we make stupid decisions when we act and make decisions out of emotion. And whether that's anger, whether that's sadness, typically that is where we're not clear headed. And so a lot of times, like you mentioned, when there's feedback and you just need to know kind of where are we at and how are we doing and where am I going, removing that emotion from leadership and from your stage and just saying like, are we continuing on this path or are we going down a different path? But we need this transparency in our communication.
Yeah, and it comes with the territory too, is like so many people are quick to be like, "Oh, that girl's a bitch," you know?
Mm,
If I take the emotion out of it, you can't really say that I'm being a bitch. You just don't like the fact that I'm being direct, and so many people get the two confused.
hmm
So it's just a matter of like trying to trim up the communication tactics. So like if you can't handle that, like this is just I've been told I'm abrasive. And it's like, well, I'm abrasive just because I'm just getting you the direct message.
hmm
I'm sorry if that's hard to hear. I don't know how else to say it, but I'm not being a bitch. I'm just driving the facts.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes they need to work on receiving those types of messages, receiving
Right.
facts. And you mentioned it a little bit, Kate, but I want to go back to it. You mentioned mental health. Um, Tell me more about that. I know we had talked before this, like sometimes we think grinding it out is always the answer, like just push through it. But like, what is your take on it? What have you experienced? If you don't mind digging into that a little bit.
Yeah. So basically, every job that I've gone to, I've had some sort of uh, not altercation, but usually what happens is like it gets to a point where I can't tolerate things.
Hmm.
I can't not say something about something that I see wrong. And then I start saying something because I feel like as a leader, if you don't like something, you have the ability to change it. So you should try to fix it.
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes in these situations, I become the loudest person in the room. Therefore, I become the problem. And there's this level of like no quit in me, and in a lot of people where like leaving isn't really the option. So you end up staying and you're staying in this like cycle of unhappiness. And that's where, I kind of found myself this year with that change is I never wanted to quit, like outright quit. I thought about maybe not going back. I know I had been like I had been unhappy, and I was thinking like, oh, maybe I'm just gonna just take the layoff and it'll be a clean break and stuff. But yeah, I never really wanted to quit. But then like I started looking at the bigger picture, and you start thinking like, well, what's it gonna do in the long run? Just staying. Like I'm not happy. I'm sure other people aren't happy with me. Like, what's it gonna do? And then I just got to the point where like I literally had this vivid image of me just, like, cutting myself. I know that's weird, but I was driving my skid steer through the job site, and I just literally, like, saw in my brain that I was just gonna right down my thigh. And
Mm.
I haven't really talked to a lot of people about this, so, like, family, if you're watching, don't call me. Um, but I was like that was, like, the wake up call for me was like, "Holy cow, I gotta change my circumstances." At what point is it really worth it? First off, why are we doing the job anyways?
Yeah.
And then, okay, if the reasons it should just be a yes or no answer. Like, is it healthy? Is it not? Am I having fun? I kind of joke and like, oh, I'll move on when I'm no longer having fun. Well, like in reality, I kind of stopped having fun a few years ago.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of got fed up with. I got I got to be sick of my own bullshit, and I almost invite that anymore because that seems to be when my wake up calls happen. And I wanted to stay in certain jobs and at this particular job because I had this respect for the people in charge, and I really look forward to creating like a familial relationship when I go to jobs, and I definitely had that with this group of people in charge, but unfortunately, and I will say it, I still love them as people, and I think they have the capacity to be great people, but I think a lot of people just get lost in the sauce,
Hmm.
get lost in the job and the stress, and it is just a job at the end of the day. And so I might not like them, but I do have love for them, and I wish everybody the best, but I could not do it. And I would say if I was on a job and somebody was working for me and was so fed up with me, and I say it to people, if you don't like it here, you just leave, you
Mhm.
know? Nobody's forcing anybody to stay. And I just kind of like thought about that. Like, okay, if the roles were reversed around and I was in charge and I had somebody working for me and they didn't like it, then I would tell them to leave. And that's what I did. And I needed to do that because it started in a way, it was a way for me to take control of my life
Yeah.
again. Um, I was living, and this was that instance of I wasn't getting feedback. So I was operating on that job and emotion, right? Kind of spiraling, trying to do things for that validation, not really doing things out of a genuine, like, uh, I was I was doing things for praise. You don't wanna do things for praise because that's not
Right.
genuine. But that's where I was because I just was I didn't know where I was at in my own mind. I would just couldn't I was like a boat without a paddle,
Mhm.
And, it was weird, really weird. And then, sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, but it was different when I moved on and stuff, but I just realized, like, certain things affected me by trying to just kind of put up with things and like justifying certain people's behaviors or the things that they say and stuff like that. And I'm done with trying to make excuses for people uh that just don't want to be helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was like when I decided to get on with this company with now. I was like, this is kind of my last hurrah. Like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't know what's after here, but, like,
Mhm.
maybe it was just, like, a sign that I don't belong in this level of construction. Maybe I'm not a good fit for it anymore, but,
Hmm.
uh, oh, it's not an end all be all just because I've been in construction for 8 to 10 years. I don't need to grind it out. I don't need to commit just because I have that time underneath me. I think when you change your perspective rather than like the time that you put into something when you do decide to change it, it was a waste of time. No, it wasn't a waste of time. I learned, I had relationships. I tried to shift my perspective. And then when I did quit, I started getting excited again about like the future and the
Mm.
possibilities. And I will say that like nothing, ConExpo Um, going back out to the GOC regionals in North Carolina, that never would have happened if I would have stayed where I was at. The demand on the job was so great that I wouldn't have been able to get the time off. So here I am. Yeah, money's great, but you can't buy any of this stuff. You can't buy the time with your family. You can't buy the time to go and have experiences that
Mhm.
you wouldn't normally get. And I would, they say it's so cliche, but it really is priceless. Like I'm so sometimes, I'd rather almost be struggling for money and having these experiences than consistent misery. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that I made the change for sure.
Absolutely, and I'm sure people listening too might be in that rut or might feel stuck, and I think a lot of this comes back to, like, really finding joy in life and, like, just
Yeah.
zooming out a little bit of, like, our career paths, our business, our job, whatever we're in, it's really not the most important thing, nor should it be. And maybe if it is, we need to reprioritize what's important in our life. If you don't mind, Kate, like, how do you what would you define joy as, or how do you find joy in your life? Because I think sometimes it's rooted so deep in our career paths, and that is our identity. But how do you find joy in your life? And maybe that is tied to your career, but curious on that.
Um, I'm trying to find it again, like I would say it's one of those things like since it's kind of been hard to find, it's been hard to see. I'm on the path to getting back to like that. I wouldn't say I have it yet, but I've had it before and I know what it looks like. And it's like um it's like a full body euphoria. Like like everything's in perspective
Mhm,
and everything's so easy and everything happens for you that doesn't happen to you. And um it's it's just it's good, everything's good. And I started reading some books. I've done a lot of things to try to get my mind right and just start like getting back there because it's so hard to climb
mhm,
out of the rut once you get down in it. Um, but it's rewarding when you get there. And then that too is like an ebb and flow of growth and maybe falling a few steps back, but then growing again.
yeah,
And the book that I'm reading, I read is Power versus Force, and it's funny because I went to, I don't know if you guys believe in like spiritual stuff, but I've tried a lot of shit to try to get this thing right. I've done Reiki, like I get lymphatic drainage massages. Like I'm trying to get the toxins out of me. I am trying to be like a better version of myself, and it's like anything to like try to get the, like, anger and shit that was inside of me out, because I really am, like, a fun, colorful person, and I don't love the version of me that is, like, angry and short-sighted and has a huge temper, and I don't like that. I don't like that I feel, that I don't need to, but I would rather go to a bar than work on
mhm,
myself, you know? I wanna like the version that I see of me in the mirror again. Um, so, yeah, I've in reading that book, it validated a lot of things for me in the sense of a lot of the window time that I've thought of.
mhm,
And a lot of times I find myself operating and thinking about the purpose of life,
mhm,
and what does it all mean, and every time, and this is before even reading the book, every time I've thought about it, it's always come down to just love for
mhm,
me. And this book actually talks about it, and just that there is really no purpose to life other than to love. And I think that we most importantly have to love ourselves. And in these moments where I've found the joy, I was in love with myself
hmm,
100%. Um I used to think so highly of myself, and could take a compliment Um, I don't know how to explain it. It's been a while, but it's just I don't want pity for the fact that I wouldn't say, I'm working on the relationship with myself. It's
Mhm.
complicated. But I think as we get into adulthood and we find distractions for having a relationship with ourselves, we have relationships with other people. We have relationships with our job. Everything plays into that. And, the last time that I had achieved this level of joy and self-love and um enlightenment, if you would. I met an amazing man and we dated, and when you date somebody, you share parts of yourself. And then
Mhm.
when you break up, like you've compromised on these things. And I think like even just breaking up and becoming your individual self again, I almost like lost the bits that like I was really I don't know, it wasn't a messy breakup or anything like that, but like I lost that.
Mhm.
And it's just hard to get back into, and then you kinda get in this violent or not this vicious cycle of, like, just trying to find it again, and, like, it's a lot of work. It's definitely the hardest job that I've had thus far is liking myself.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned it, just building that relationship with yourself because
Yeah.
a lot of times, especially on the negative side, that negative self talk that
Yeah.
so many of us have, that imposter syndrome, that you're just your own worst critic always and beating yourself up. And that is very difficult, is to build a positive relationship with yourself. And I think, um, and this is by no means advice for anyone, but something that I've found joy in is, or not joy, but in building a good relationship with myself is doing hard things.
Yeah.
Always putting myself in hard, with the bunny ears, of like it's hard for me to do, but it's not as hard as so many other people's situations. I don't want to say that, but for example, of just physically hard situations, put yourself out there. Maybe it's public speaking, like whatever your weaknesses are, try and face them head on and put yourself in those situations and try and grow. And when one of the most encouraging things for myself is when I see growth in a certain area in my life, like it's exciting. It's almost like you become proud of yourself. Like, man, that was not easy. Like,
Mhm.
great work. And I think one thing that I've kind of been battling recently is just like complacency, right? Like, am I good with good enough, or am I good with how I am? But really deep down, I know that that's going to deteriorate myself and my relationship with myself. And I kind of think of it as like atomic habits. Like if I'm complacent and I'm good, I start to go downwards, because then I start to bring in some bad habits that aren't negatively impacting me right now, but in the next X amount of time, I will go on that horseshoe or that hockey stick downward. And so trying to just adjust it just a little bit to where we have that those good habits and eliminating some of the bad habits. But I think just finding ways of getting something on the calendar, and you alluded to this too, Kate, something that you can be excited about, something that you can work towards, something that you can go accomplish for yourself, is very rewarding. But I think it can also improve the relationship you have, that we all have with ourselves, which is typically one of the most difficult that we'll encounter.
Yeah, I have it here. I don't know where it's at. Oh, here it is. I got a planner, and like what you're talking about is like essentially holding yourself accountable.
Hmm.
And like I put the little things on here, but I also put the big things on here. And at the end of the day, I kind of like get a highlighter and I did this today,
Yeah.
like something as little as like checking my bank account, because
Yeah.
you're right. Complacency is, we in our mind we think we got it,
Hmm.
but when you keep doing you string that together in days in a row, you don't really got it, or you could let it slide. And I kinda joke, and we can segue, I guess, if after this, if you like, but, I worked on the road. I don't
Hmm.
we haven't really covered that, but I live in a camper, and I've worked on the road for 7 years now, and I've lived in my camper for the last, like, 6. But before that, I worked, in the ski industry, and I've dabbled still. So, I've never really lived anywhere. I never have felt anywhere, like besides Oregon, but like that I felt like was home. I've
Mhm.
always felt like I'm living in an apartment, I'm living in a hotel. Oh, I'm just working here for a season. I'm living in employee housing. Um, so I've kind of joked that like we're working on the road because we're running from our problems,
Mm.
but we can't run from ourselves.
Mhm.
I think our problem for a lot of us, I can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of us, when you really get down to the nitty gritty, is ourselves, but you can't run from you.
Right.
So it's just is what it is.
Yeah.
Better
How
like yourself. Shit or get
how
off the pot,
Yeah,
huh?
right. So and I know we'll kinda you were mentioning some of your book recommendations as well, and I wanna see if there's any others in there too, but you mentioned living on the road, living in the camper, living in Australia. Are you a big traveler? Do you like traveling, or do you just like being mobile, and is there a difference?
Yeah, I like traveling, so we'll consider being mobile, me living in the camper. I do enjoy that. I like the possibilities that come with going to a new
Mhm.
spot. Some places are great, some places are not, some places you are average, you know.
Yeah.
In that being mobile, I take advantage of my rotations. Every few weeks we get some days off to travel.
Mhm.
And I've really enjoyed that. Driven to I went to Niagara Falls by myself. I went to Hawaii by myself.
Wow.
Um, I've went to Florida, met up with somebody one time, a friend of mine that lived actually, she was staying in a hostel, so I got a hostel experience in Tampa, Florida,
There you
that was
go.
even yeah, I like to travel by myself.
Mhm.
I think I'm getting to the point in my life where I look around and I would like to share it with somebody,
Yeah.
but, I don't think there's anything wrong with traveling by myself either. I really enjoy the unknowns that come with that. Hopefully good unknowns.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get kidnapped.
The surprises that come with the hostels
Yeah.
in Tampa.
Yeah, no, that was good, actually. I did almost get abducted in Chicago the other day, though, so
Yeah.
there was that,
That's a
but,
that's a whole
you know,
'nother story.
whole another thing.
Oh, I love it. And Kate, wanted to make sure. So you mentioned, and kind of usually how we wrap up these episodes is through some good book recommendations. You mentioned the one already. Do you have any other book or podcast recommendations for our listeners as we wrap up this episode number 120?
I am gonna give a shout out to my buddy Parker Bohan, and he does the Blade Dive podcast. So just we didn't get into the ski industry as much, but definitely a big part of who I am, and
Hmm.
I like what he does, getting people on, and same thing like you, he's doing it for the ski side of things.
Hmm.
I had this book and I was reading it this last year, and it's called Good Energy.
Hmm.
And I thought it was actually like a brain book, but it turned out to be like a metabolic health book, which I read and I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot about just metabolism and how really none of our jobs are actually geared to be healthy for us, and you know the hours that we keep
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And coming from working graveyard shifts in the winter, that's so not it's so against everything our body wants to do. But I learned a lot about that, and I think you know what we put into our body is really good about what we get out,
Hmm.
and performance wise and mentally and everything like that. So in my pursuit to try to tackle the mental health demon, I was just kind of looking at some things. So really enjoyed that book, and actually have changed my diet because of it, and just trying to overall be healthier. And you know, there's a lot of health scares going around. So instead of trying to, you know, change the world and tell everybody they need to do this, 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 and this, you know, I'm trying to take it upon myself to learn a little bit and control my 3 foot world, which is right here and what
Yeah.
I can do and change myself. If I can be a better version of myself, then hopefully I can encourage other people to be better versions of them.
Wow.
Mm.
Amazing. And I know you certainly do encourage so many people and hopefully people listening to this podcast. I know we mentioned it at the beginning of the show, Kate, but your handle at Iron Lady Co. But what are other ways people can reach out to you if they want to just let you know they listen to this episode, if they have any questions or if they just want to have a conversation further?
Um, Yeah, Iron Lady Co. I am a part of a group called She Groomes, and we have social media as well. So That is underscore she grooms underscore. That's on Instagram or Facebook. And that's just a great way for women to connect in the ski industry, but even outside of the ski industry that we bring them together for a camp that we've got actually coming up in May. And we do roundtables and hands-on peer-to-peer training and stuff like that. So that's an awesome opportunity. So if you're in any of the ski industry circles or
Mhm.
I'm going to be out at PNSAA, which is Pacific Northwest Skiers Association, here at the end of April, speaking on a panel for that. Um, Maybe see some people there. I don't really have anything on the books besides that and She Grooms, which is going to be in May.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, just I'm really active on social media. So anybody wants to just send me a direct message and I would love to chat. I'm working on like a website for Iron Lady Co. I do have like some shirts and stuff that like right there. That's one of them.
Oh, there we
Um
go. So
so
did you make that one then on the cricket?
yeah,
That's
yeah, I wore this one. I didn't make it here. I had it like professionally made, but it's women
oh,
working.
I've seen that. Yeah, I saw that
Yeah,
logo. I think on one of your graphics maybe, but I love it.
potentially. And then I have another one that has Chit's face on it and says "Do
Yeah.
it, ladies." So it's kind of funny. I got a few other ones I'm kicking around, maybe like Motor Grader Mommy or
Oh,
Chicks Dig It,
you
stuff like that.
I li Oh, I love it. Yeah, so for everyone listening, definitely reach out to Kait. Obviously, you are amazing. And thank you for all that you do for the industry, but thank you for the last, I mean, hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes of just value, transparency, vulnerability, like everything. And this is why we do the show. It's just to have great conversations with people like yourself, but then for everyone listening to really connect everyone. And it's what we talked about here today. And it's a very simple, easy medium to do it. Like you and I are just having a live conversation right now,
Mm.
but to hopefully get to connect and build lifelong friendships and relationships with anyone else listening to this podcast right now. So, Kait, thank you so much for being on the Dirtbags podcast. Hopefully, we'll get you on again in the next year so we can hear how everything else is going. But very excited we got to have you on the show and excited to see you hopefully next year or even this year at some type of in-person trade show would be so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Awesome. Heck yeah. Well, thank you, Kait. And for anyone still listening, if you guys jump on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a review, shoot me a message with any feedback. And as always, we'll see you on the next one. Kait, thank you so much. We will catch you on the next episode. Cheers.